Hey. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for sticking around. We're now going to have a Q&A. Please help me welcome the director of Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, Justin Lin. Please help me welcome Kang, who played Han. And we have Leonardo, who played Morimoto. So everybody knows the best way to settle a Yakuza feud is to race. Okay, so thanks so much for everybody coming out. This is a really great turnout. We wanted to celebrate this movie because I looked at the dates and I was like, I can't believe it. It's been 10 years. It has been 10 years, which is crazy. So we wanted to, bring everybody out and watch it together. And a lot of stuff has happened in the last 10 years, so we want to revisit the movie and talk about it. I know, Leo, I know you sat through the screening, but you guys also, I don't know the last time you guys watched this movie, but what's your impression, like, 10 years later? What's this out? What's, like, kind of like the...
Oh, I loved it! It's actually more fun now, like, because you realize it's been 10 years and then it's just so good still. You're just like, you're on that ride again. You're like, I was, I'm sitting there watching it and remembering what it was like at Universal, the premiere, like, it feels like that. And I was like, oh yeah, it's fun. It's great.
You guys have any thoughts on it 10 years later?
First of all, excuse me, I gotta wake up. I've been working on like 3 hours sleep, just flew in from London, so I have like a lot of caffeine in front of me. Hopefully I'll be with you guys in about 5 minutes. But I saw the print of it last year at the New Beverly, and it was, for me, it was nice because it was that it's one of those films that kind of marks a period in kind of all our careers, And I remember going in there and, Fast and Furious has become kind of this global thing, but when I went on there, everybody at the studio were kind of running for the hills because there was no Vin Diesel, no Paul Walker, and it was just us having fun, And there were a lot of battles, but I came from the indie world and I didn't know the rules, so we were just really kind of going after it. And I still look back very fondly because it was one of those things where we made a big budget movie with a very indie sensibility.
So you got anything to add? No.
No.
Yeah, really. Well, so yeah, can you talk about that when you were handed the reins to this franchise? I mean, it was not, I kind of, if I recall, it was kind of like this thing where, it has no recognizable stars. For the time, it had no recognizable stars. The main franchise stars had kind of exited, and you were handed this thing to sort of salvage. And then on top of that, you were coming off of Better Luck Tomorrow in Annapolis, and I remember when it was reported that you got the job. I was like, it's going to take place in Japan. I was kind of worried about it. Can you talk about being handed to it, and then also like the state of the script when you got it? Like, what was it like? What did it look like?
I mean, there's no disrespect to kind of anybody. I remember getting the script, and I had the same worries, and kind of all my worries were kind of on the page. And the studio was going through this turnover, and Stacey Snider, who was running, she ended up kind of leaving, I think around pre-production or production. And so it was kind of chaos at the time. And I remember reading it, and they're like, well, that's the head of the studio. You should at least take that meeting. And I was like, no, I don't want to take the meeting. I don't want to do it. They're like, you really should go. So I went to the meeting, and I told her what I didn't like about it. And to her credit, she said, look, whatever you want to do, just do. You have 2 months before, or 3 months before you start shooting, and you can do whatever you want. And she kept her word, So it was one of those situations where I think being honest and going in and having a point of view really helped, But that being said, every step of the way, even though I think she kept her promise and I got to make the film I wanted to make, it was tough because there were always fights, not only just with people, but with the schedule. You know, to try to turn around a film in about 3 months is insane. But I think, again, coming from the indie world, it was a lot of fun, and I wanted to kind of bring on everybody I wanted to work with, you know, including Leo, Sung, even Lucas, and everybody. And we were just throwing things around, and you know, with a big budget film like this, it's not, you don't just show up and start shooting. You know, there's 2 units, shots have to be designed, sequences have to be designed. You're spending, you know, $300,000, $400,000 a day. I remember thinking that I would spend more money before lunch on one day than I did on the whole budget for Better Luck Tomorrow, you know? So that was the jump. And, but it was something that I think going in and being able to say no really gave me a lot of leverage.
So I think, so I've heard this theory advanced, and I kind of ascribe to it too, is that you took this movie who, essentially the hero is this southern kid, this white kid in Japan, but really you really took sort of the coolest character in this entire movie and you made it an Asian dude. And this movie is responsible for introducing one of the coolest Asian dudes ever in the history of Hollywood, who is Han. And you really kind of made him steal the show, honestly. I mean, can you talk about creating that character, and then Sung, can you talk about playing him? And then playing him for, like, you know, 3 or 4 more movies.
You know, I gotta say, it's probably one of the proudest kind of accomplishments, you know, because when I read the script, Han didn't exist at all. So to be able to kind of create the character and then, you know, really bring Sung on. But I think it was even more than that. I think Morimoto and DK, like, we had so much fun just even talking about these characters, not as bad guys, but just as guys, you know. And so it was a lot of fun to be able to kind of come up in the Asian American community and being able to kind of get in there and just try and do it our way.
Sung, I'm going to require you to say something.
It's really hard to talk about being cool, right?
Just be, right? You just are, right?
You gotta ask me a question.
Can you talk about what you wanted to bring to this character? And also, can we, I think you said it before, that the character is somewhat of a holdover from the character from Better Luck Tomorrow that you played, right?
Yeah.
So can you talk about playing that, I mean, creating this character, helping create this character, and then, you know, having to stay with him for several movies and what that means to you? I mean, yeah.
Come on, man.
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that question.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I remember Han, you know, we were talking about Han from Better Luck Tomorrow, and he was smoking pretty much every scene he was in. So going into this, we decided he was trying to quit smoking. So if you notice, he was eating every scene, and it ultimately paid off in Fast 5 when Giselle calls him on it. So it was kind of like, you know, I think it was like 8 years in the making for that joke.
Leo, can you talk about playing? You're so mean in this movie. You're so mean in this movie. But can you talk about playing Morimoto and sporting that blonde do and?
Oh, it was fun. It was great. I loved working on this movie. It was just so fun and working with Justin because I remember coming on board and really talking to him, and you know, there aren't a lot of times where you know you bring stuff to the table when you're talking to a director and what have you, and they're so responsive to it, and so like fuck yeah, like let's get it. I remember that meeting, and I was like so jazzed afterwards. I was like, oh, it's gonna be so fun, like, because usually, you know, they try and put you in some kind of a box, what have you, and it was just so fun to play that. And I saw him as I saw him as like a skinhead. And so that's kind of the idea that I went with bleaching his hair. And, well, we knew the hair was going to be bleached, but kind of trying to find that thing and what that meant for me and what have you, and to be part of a gang that's a T-hairs and in a country that is so, I mean, you go to Japan, it's Japanese people, you know what I mean? And it felt like to be able to play a skinhead, and I had the with the what do you call it, the suspenders and that kind of stuff. It was so fun to play that and to explore what that is like, and for someone that is in a country like Japan trying to find their way, you know. And for me, it was having this, this dude there's this white dude that's coming into this. There's a lot of talk of gaijin and all that stuff through this movie, and I thought that was my, that was me trying to, hold up my, to be honorable of, what I thought was honorable. I mean, clearly not a good thing, but yeah, that's what, and it was great to do that, and to talk to Justin about it, and then him being like, yeah, let's fucking do it. So, I mean, that'll tell me,
Justin, this movie, it could have been a standalone movie. I mean, up until that end scene, it could have just sort of been on its own, like a pretty cool action movie. But but then knowing what we know now, what has transpired in the movies that have come out since then, and sort of the broader universe of this franchise, I have to ask, what were your sort of intentions going into this and coming out of the film? How much of it was like, I have this idea to expand this greater universe, bring everybody back together? Was that like after the money came in? Where in the process was this like, oh, we're going to spin this giant, amazing, multi-film franchise?
Well, I think the first approach was kind of having a point of view, and the original script was very kind of what you would expect. I had like cars drifting around Buddha statues and stuff like that, and I wanted to make it into more of a postmodern kind of Western. And it really brought me back to when I was in film school and I saw the first Fast and Furious. I remember seeing it at the AMC Santa Monica, and I was TAing a class at UCLA, and I remember there were a couple of the students that would go out and they would race. And that's the first time I kind of started learning about the rice rockets and stuff like that. And it was fascinating for me to kind of get introduced to the world, this subculture with a lot of Asian Americans, And so I went to see the film. It was a little disappointing that, of course, the only Asians are the bad guys, And so it was from that I decided, if I'm going to do it, I would love to kind of link it up to, to the franchise itself and hopefully build a mythology. And so that was kind of the impetus for the idea of getting Vin for the last scene. And of course, Vin had a big falling out with, the franchise, and he was like never going to come back. And Jeff Kirschenbaum, who was the exec on it, we decided it didn't matter. We were going to go get him no matter what. So I remember meeting Vin at his house, and we sat and talked for like 8 hours. And I talked to him about Han's relationship with him and all that stuff. And the great thing was, this is 2005, everything we talked about, we got to make. So that's why after Fast 6, I was like, I'm done, because that's what we talked about that night, So it's something that I like, in any kind of film, is that if you want to kind of enjoy it just on a superficial level, hopefully you can have a great time, But as filmmakers, if we can kind of build in, stuff, layers underneath, and even relationship underneath, and build this whole world, and we're able to earn our way, then you're gonna, everybody, the community will be able to experience more and more of the relationships, and that was the goal, And I think it was to try to kind of co-opt something that I personally didn't love when I saw the first film, to try to take it over and hopefully build something that's, that's diverse, and it all became, everything that we talked about, everything that I wanted to do. So that was really amazing that night, 2005, everything came true.
It's amazing. Can you talk a little bit about the technical scenes in this, the action scenes in this movie? I mean, this was your first, you've since done a lot of car action, auto action, but this was your first time handling that. And can you talk about the challenge of doing that? But then also, my other question is just out of curiosity, did you really drive cars through the Shibuya crossing? Because that scene is like that chase scene where Han dies is still, for me, one of my favorite chase scenes of the whole franchise, actually.
It was really interesting because, you know, before this film, I remember Better Luck Tomorrow, I had like one crane shot, and I was so excited to have it. It was one of those, remember it was one of those old cranes where like you get to sit in it, and they don't have those cranes anymore. You get to sit, and it like goes up. And I thought like that was it. Like if I got one crane shot in my life, it's great. And now I'm at a point where I'm shooting Star Trek. I have like 5 cranes with me every day just to hang out. So that was a big jump into Tokyo Drift, and having that, it was great because I kind of had the same approach as kind of Better Luck Tomorrow, is trying to kind of make sure that, you know, every shot, every lens, you don't like just forego, you know, and that was a process that I didn't really understand, and I'm kind of glad I didn't understand because, you know, there's a lot of filmmakers that do things differently, but I really like to be involved in designing the movie, you know, and so that's where I came from, and so to be able to kind of do that, it was also trying to change a culture because it was number 3 of a franchise, and I remember going in there. It felt like there were some people who were just kind of clocking in and out, you know, and I was, you know, I just don't like that. You know, I feel like when we show up, we should really just work hard and push each other because it's the best job in the world. You know, it's the only place where you can do whatever the fuck you want. You know, like if I want to do a chase scene in Shibuya, we'll figure it out. I have like the best people I'm working with, you know, and so that was the energy, and I think from the cast, from the crew, that was just my approach, and I'm glad that that's the approach I can do for every film. But I didn't know that in the studio world, it was the politics of it sometimes can crush you. And I was still very kind of young and innocent, and I didn't care, and I loved the fact that we got to do what we wanted, and so that was, you know, now looking back, that was really important because, you know, I think I wanted to change the culture of how these films get made, you know, because you go there and, you know, you're like, oh, well, I want to do this. I want to do this one move. And a lot of times, you know, these great veterans, they'll say, well, we'll do it this way. And they'll kind of take over. And they've done it for 20 years. And you say, oh, okay, fine. But coming in from, again, not knowing anything, I would always say, well, why? Like, why do we have to do it that way? You know, I remember Fast 5, I wanted to flip the bus, right? And they said, oh, yeah, you have to do it in 2 shots and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I want to do it in 1 shot. How do you do it in 1 shot? And they're like, whoa. So we built like 2 cannons at the bottom of the bus, and I think it's just about pushing it because, you know, at the end of the day, Hollywood is, I think, the only cinema in the world where you can do something like this. You know, there's great cinemas around the world, but this is the only cinema where you can really kind of push and you can challenge because you do have the financial like backing, you have the greatest kind of craftsmen in the world. So it was something that I think it wasn't on purpose. I didn't understand all the kind of politics, but it ended up being a great experience because of it.
Let's open it up to the audience for questions. So I saw that hand shoot up, right? Yes, you.
So welcome to the Star Trek family. As a hardcore Trekkie, I go to conventions and everything. So, do you ever feel the pressure from the Trek fans or anything that regarding like, Star Trek's reactions? And also, would you ever consider going to a convention?
Do I ever feel the pressure? Yeah, I feel the pressure. They let me know.
Yeah.
You know, we had this teaser trailer, and of course, you know, the studio's like, oh, it's, you know, they wanted to. It's really interesting, you know, I've gotten to know a lot of the fans, and I do love that passion, you know, and you know, my way into that franchise was I grew up with that franchise, you know. I don't know if I'm a. Did you call yourself a Trekkie? Isn't it? Aren't you supposed to be a Trekker or something?
Trekkie is for the original series.
Oh.
Trekker is for the several generations afterwards.
Oh, so I'm a Trek. I'm kind of a Trekkie because I grew up with it.
But it's a mixture. It's either or. So you
Okay.
get to choose. But mainly it's Trekkies. But Trekkers are for the new generation. But everyone uses Trekkies.
Cool.
Y'all learned something today.
I mean, I definitely want to respect everybody. It's been 50 years, you know. I get to make the film at year 50, you know, and so it's been a big part of my life. I grew up watching it with my dad, and that was the only time we got to spend together because he worked so much. So it meant a lot to me. I'm at a point in my career where I don't have to do it, but I really wanted to do it, and I want to try to hopefully capture the essence, what I love about the original series, you know, about exploration, about exploring these themes of federation and what that means. And so it is something I really am proud of, and I just came from the cutting room, and I have a great group of people, and you know, Simon Pegg and Doug Jung, great people to work with. You know, they're big fans of the franchise too. So, you know, in a way, I'm very proud because I know that we have the goods. Like, we really went after it, you know. But so yeah, I feel the pressure. There should be pressure, and you know, it comes with my job, you know. And I really want to capture the essence, and I'm you know, I'm working every day, 24 hours a day to try to get it. So, and I feel great, you know. I feel like everything that I've learned from indie world, TV world, tentpole world, everything as a filmmaker has kind of led me to this point, you know. So I'm very excited to kind of finish up strong and share with you and everybody in July.
And we can go to a convention?
Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see if you guys will.
Any other questions about Tokyo Drift? Wait, I want to point out, this guy right here has a shirt that says Han lives. That's right. I just wanted to point that out because that's dope. Let's see, we got a question right in the middle, right there. Yeah.
First of all, I just wanted to say thank you for being the only director to actually do diversity. That's great. Thank you so much. Out of all the characters from Better Luck Tomorrow that you could have chosen, why did you choose Han? And also, this might be a little selfish, but I was wondering if you could do me the kindness of signing this for my girlfriend for Chinese New Year.
Can we? I know people brought DVDs and things like that to sign. Maybe we can hold off until. I think it's okay to do that maybe
When my
afterwards.
caffeine kicks in, I'm in.
Yeah.
I'll sign everything.
Yeah, afterwards we can, you know, go with those requests.
Thank you.
But yeah, did you want to answer the question?
Oh wait, what is the question?
Out of all the characters in Better Luck Tomorrow, why Han to bring over to the Fast and Furious world?
It just felt appropriate, you know. And the rooftop scene really is the connection scene to Better Luck Tomorrow, you know. And it was just something that it felt very organic. If you actually watch Annapolis, the Roger Fan character actually went to Annapolis, so we were gonna work on all the characters somewhere in all my films.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, right here.
Hi.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for choosing me. I have to say, out of my deepest respect for your professionality, I want to be honest, this was the best movie I've ever seen when it comes to action and driving. My favorite. Top down.
Wow, thank you.
And, wow. When I was growing up, I was raised by one of my closest mentors to me, Takabuta. I'm sure you're familiar. He is a karate master, and he taught me how to be respectful and honorable to everyone I meet. Now, for you, Song, who was your mentor throughout this entire experience?
The experience of shooting Tokyo Drift or in life?
Well, he's taught me a lot about myself when it comes to doing professional jobs, such as acting. And for you, in this movie, what was your greatest inspiration?
I guess the greatest inspiration for this particular movie was, you know, I think it's Justin. We have. I mean, look, we're the same age. We got to go on this wonderful journey together, from Better Luck Tomorrow to wrapping up the whole series for us, and to the Fast and Furious, like final death of Han. I remember when we were shooting Tokyo Drift, and we were walking through the office, the production office, and there's like 100 people there, looking at Justin and going, good morning, yes sir, yes sir. We go into his office and we close the door, and we kind of look at each other. I mean, when we're shooting Better Luck Tomorrow, our craft service was a box of Intimate donuts and 5 Wrigley spearmint gums that were spread on the table. In the office, there's chairs, and there's a phone, there's electricity. And there are these like Hanson drinks in a little refrigerator. I mean, and then we're traveling around the world. We get to go to Tokyo, staying at like these 5-star hotels, to be able to fulfill your dream together with a friend. And there were a lot of friends from Better Luck Tomorrow that worked on the movie, and then that continued the journey through the Fast and Furious franchise. So if there was an inspiration, it was that friendship. So there wasn't this sensei there telling us what to do. The hardest problem, I think, for an Asian American actor or people in our business is that we don't have mentors. I mean, if you look at it, there just weren't a lot of actors around to guide. Like there was no actor I could call and go, hey, when you get to a certain level, how do I conduct myself? What are the challenges how do you get an agent? How do you do this? I think that was the biggest challenge for me as an Asian American actor, is that because there were just not a lot of opportunities for actors, there aren't those mentors. So the mentors come from ourselves. So the journey that we went through, there are very few actors and Asian American directors that could help us. So a lot of the times we were just kind of lost and just figuring it out as we went. So hopefully that answers your question.
Congratulations on the Fuguzi.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, right here in the front.
How many times have you seen the film, Rob?
This was my 200th viewing. All right, I'm Rob Jones, and my question is, for all of you, what souvenirs did you take home from the movie? And don't lie.
From Tokyo Drift?
Yes.
I took, and my mother took, a lot of craft service. The idea of having all the food that you could eat, right, was amazing to me. This is an amazing story. Is that when we were in Tokyo, shooting in Tokyo, I invited my mother. I flew her out, right? I had to share this whole experience of being on a studio movie. And she came to set, and craft service, if you guys have never been on a movie set, there's donuts and there's, gum and candy and all, it's just laid out and you get to eat it for free. You get to take it. You can put it in your pocket and you can take off with it. And my mother was waiting there in front of the craft service when I went to go change, and I came out and she was standing there with her wallet open. And I said, what are you doing? And she said, I want to buy you these little bow things, right? And I said, it's free. And she goes, free? Free? Stuffing sausages in her bag and all this stuff. And I was like, jeez, man. And then that night, we went to the King Kong premiere. Remember that? Yeah. So at this theater, because King Kong was a Universal movie, we got there. It was like a 3-hour affair where Peter Jackson and the cast and everybody was there. And for some reason, there was a rule in this theater that you could not have drinks or popcorn or any type of concessions. So we're sitting there with the cast, and everyone's getting hungry. It's like we worked all day, and people are complaining. And then some of the cast were like, I think we're gonna go get something to eat. And my mother goes, "Oh, you guys hungry?" So she starts to pull out all the sausages. And she starts handing them all the craft service, right? So we took a lot of craft service. Yeah. That's the souvenir.
That's awesome.
I didn't know you could actually keep things back then. That's how kind of innocent I was.
You were doing whatever you wanted and you didn't think to take anything?
I didn't. No, I working class kid. I never thought. But the coolest thing was that RX-7. That color, everything was that was the car I wanted to kind of build for Han, right? So it was the orange and black. And I got a call right before Fast 6, and Harley said we want to design a bike for Han to ride, and they had it in the black and orange Han colors. So I kept that one.
And I just, no blonde hair. Again.
Leo, I don't know if you remember, but the first time we met, you were still sporting I think you must have just gotten off shooting this, and the first time I met you was with blonde hair. It was like 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, and I didn't know that you were in the movie, and I was like, what's this dude with the blonde hair? Who's this Korean dude, Aussie dude with the blonde hair?
With tea-colored hair. Yes. It's very specific.
Yeah, over there in the hat. Yeah.
So Vin Diesel basically said that there's gonna be 3 more movies, and they're gonna close out with a trilogy. My question is kind of in 2 parts. First question is, do you see yourself actually coming back to maybe directing maybe the last 2 movies? And if not, how do you think the series should close?
Have you been talking to Vin or something? Vin calls me. We talk, and he's always calling. No matter where I am in the world, he's always calling. And I love Vin, but like sometimes he talks a lot. In a good way. I mean, I think we care, and for me to leave, it was a tough decision, but I really felt like it was enough. I felt like 4 movies was awesome because we grew up together, and our families became a family, one family, and we had kids, and their kids are growing up together, and so it was something that was really hard to do, but I felt like it was time for me to go and try and do other things, and so. It was really tough, I think, especially with Paul passing and everything. And, I think we talked about 8, 9, 10. And I've been very fortunate. I never had to kind of make a decision on the films I want to make based on business. It was always if something was inspiring for whatever reason, like I wanted to try this or that. And the 4 Fast and Furious movies, they're all very different. And so I felt like that was, it was something that was a gift, something that was a gift, but it was also something that we all earned together, and so I'm not averse to doing more Fast, but I feel like my inspiration in the bars have kind of always shifted, and so it's something that obviously is very close to my heart. It's been a big part of my life. I know that if I, get killed tonight or something, my name will be next to Fast and Furious, like no matter what, that's part of my life, and so I'm very proud of that. But for that reason, I wouldn't go back just to go back,
And then how do you think the series should end, or how do you envision it ending?
We've had many hours and hours of, again, I talked to Vin a lot, and to me, it was after 6, that was wrapping it up with Han, and so for me, I didn't want to go into 7. I just felt like that would have been, I remember having a great talk with Paul about not going back, and I felt like it was the right thing to do for me, but also for the fans, for the community, for everybody, because it just wouldn't have been right. I wouldn't have been doing it for the right reasons. There's definitely, we've talked about how it should end, and I'm not going to share that, though.
There is a possible plan, but never say never. Never say never. Yes, in the back up there, in the glasses. Yes, you.
My question is, how did you end up choosing the cars that you wanted to feature in the movie? And also, I did cry every time Han died, and
It's very interesting because I always feel like, as Americans, cars are an extension of who we are. So there's a lot of talks with the actors when we develop the characters. And Dennis McCarthy, who's one of the best picture car guys, he we'll have these auditions. So we'll have it like on a Saturday somewhere, and it'll be like 250, 300 cars just in some huge parking lot, you know. And I just walk, and it's very emotional because these are like people's passion, you know. It's like they're kids, and I can only pick like 5 or 6 of them, you know. And I remember on Fast 4, there was a Monte Carlo, it was a beat up Monte Carlo, just sitting in the corner, and everybody had all these like really nice cars, and I saw that car in the corner, and I wanted that car. Actually, no, I'm sorry, not Fast 4. This one. It's the beginning one. There was the Monte Carlo that Lucas was driving. Sorry. It was something that I feel like it's a big part of who we are. It's a big part of who the characters are, and it's something that we should take a lot of care in building. And so a lot of those cars, we went through casting calls. Of course, you get a ton of calls from car companies wanting you to use their cars, you know. And I'm very proud to say that every time they tried, I turned down the money. The only time that we ended up using the cars were the cop cars in Fast 5 because it was appropriate. The Chargers were appropriate. It was within the family, and it was cop cars. So, but other than that, like it always ended up costing a lot more money. And I feel a little bit bad sometimes because every time you see one of these cars, we got to build 8 of them, you know. And I mean, it's amazing just the amount of work that goes into it. Like if I come up with a crazy idea of some move, Dennis and the guys will actually go and build a car to make that move. You know, so, and you know, on Tokyo Drift, when we have a car that breaks down, right around the corner, the next car comes around, and they start fixing it, you know, and so every hero car, there's about 8 of them. And it always breaks my heart when we have to crash them, because there's one less car of that, you know, model in the world, you know, so, and the thing that's really, really hard is when we do, you know, we do all the stunts and stuff, and then we have to put the actors in. And so I always want these angles, so we have to cut up the cars. And those are hard. So for this one, I remember this one moment where, you know, the Mustang, we had a hero car. You know, this is this car that, you know, it was a classic Mustang. It was the one that was like, I don't know how much it was worth. It was a ton of money. But it was the hero car we were using. And I remember I was walking the set, and I saw a guy just taking a saw, and he was cutting it. And he cut the wrong car. He actually ended up cutting the hero car. Oh, God, that was tough.
I still wince in that first scene where Sean's racing the car, and he's just, that first drift scene where he's just like scraping it all over the place. I mean, that ass kicking is equivalent to Daniel getting, like in Karate Kid when Daniel gets his ass beat by Johnny. Like that, I feel like that scene is equivalent to that. Yes, that was a really fast hand raise.
Thank you for continuing. I just want to say thank you for making this Tokyo Drift, because it reminds me of the old Japanese comics, Initial D, and the Chinese movie. But except this one, more people see it. It really reminds me of that, but different. My question is, for all 3 of you, Justin and Sang and Leo. I'm sorry, I'm too nervous. From all the Fast and Furious movie that you were involved in, if you have to pick one car to take home, which one would you pick?
Oh man.
Just one. Don't be greedy.
I was in one, so I'll just choose the car I had.
You like that one, okay.
I'm in love with that Mustang, the fastback Mustang.
Wow.
That's
Muscle car.
that car I've had a love affair with, you know, since I was a little kid. You know, so.
Nice.
I don't think I could just
You gotta
pick
pick one. Not the one you already took home.
No, it's a motorcycle. That's the one I took home. I don't know. I mean, I think my big love is for big American cars, you know. But I gotta say the RX-7 is the one that with Veilside. That one was just, it took so much work in designing it, picking up the color and everything, because I wanted it just to be right for Han, you know. And so, you know, I'm very proud. Like, you know, whenever I go anywhere around the world, I see a black and orange car, and it's usually Han inspired. It's something I'm very proud of. So I probably take that one.
Yeah, Thank you so much. I knew it was going to be a good day when I was driving to work and I saw GTR and I tried to race it.
Everybody drives a little bit faster after seeing a Fast and Furious movie. All right, well that's all the time we have, everybody. Thank you so much for coming. Please help me thank
I think there might be other people. Was there other people in the crew and cast here?
Oh yeah, let's.
I just want to make sure because
Anybody?
Anybody? I just want to make sure I don't miss anybody. What about there's Jimmy, my brother, he was part of the crew. Hey Rob, so how many more times are you gonna see it?
I was just showing Jimmy. How many more times am I going to see it?
Infinity, man.
I tell you what, I would say at least 50 over the next couple years.
Nice.
250. It's a fan, guys.
All right. Thank you guys so much.
Thanks so much, everybody. Justin, Wayne, Kang.